couldn't do
Hi,
this.
everyone. This is Amelia Duran, the host of Porthole to Justice, and we were cut off. I have Lotus Justice here with me today, and she's been on the show many times before. And oh my gosh, it's so frustrating, but it's also, you know, it's fine. It's cool because
It's standard par for us.
yeah, par for the course. I love you. Lotus is like the best. She's like, I'm game, girlfriend. Don't worry about it. Anyway,
I expect them to I expect interference anytime you're doing something that's really important and really righteous. I just expect it.
Yeah.
I really do.
So it's been intense. It's been like, wow. You know, in my quest, to get to the bottom of all of this and really paying attention.
Right now.
Yeah. So I reached out to you because I pay attention to these bills that they're publishing, and they published SB 273 in kind of your newswire. It's not like been known for being totally consistent with as a credible source, and I don't think that was unintentional. But I think SB 273 is very intentional, and it's very important and pivotal to your case, particularly Lotus Justice. Welcome to the Portal to Justice.
Yes. And it's particularly important because what you've discussed with me is that you feel that there is a clear prima facie evidentiary indication that the Bar Union of California, which you understand that the Bar Union basically has cooed all branches of our government, and that they're not by law allowed to occupy those. And we can discuss that about the TONA and the specifics of the genius of our founding fathers in that act. So I think it was intentional that they barred these people from it, because they clearly show that these are people that understand a little bit of the law enough to sell it, to hawk the control of it to the highest bidder. And that's a term called sophists. And this is a philosophical conundrum we're in, and we talk about that a lot, the philosophy of things. At least personally, we discuss the philosophy of what's going on now. Aristotle defined sophists. This is an Aristotle term. A sophist is one who takes his understanding of the law and sells his understanding because he's saying, I can get around the law because I know it well enough to get around it. And if you pay me to get around the law by arguing what's called particularities, which is what statutes are, I can make you pay me and I'll get you what you want. I'll get you out. It's terminally known as an indulgence in the ecclesiastic form of law. So what I'm talking about as a sophist is the Roman term. In the Roman Catholic Church, it's called an indulgence. Because if you're rich enough to pay enough money, you can get away with trafficking, murdering, eating, hunting, and doing horrible things to children in mass, including up to war. But the individual crimes are particularly disgusting. So you're talking about sophists are now in control of California, and you think that this particular bill shows where the Bar Union in general is perpetuating a political agenda to legalize child pedophilia and marriage and the trafficking of children legislatively by hiding their agenda in legislation that's already been reviewed, if I remember correctly, within the lower courts of California. Am I right in this?
Yes, you are correct.
Okay.
That is my opinion.
They did the same thing in Oregon. They did the same thing in Oregon with a case concerning, they took a state employee who got fired for her conversations at a water cooler, and she took it to the Supreme Court, and the Bar Union, and she'd been found guilty if it was a righteous fire, and that Bar Union argued in this particular woman's case that state employees have immunity when discussing or talking about work items in a personal fashion, okay? And something to that effect. And she won. And so then the Bar Union comes back and tries to institute through administrative rule, and argues that state employees are immune from prosecution when they lie. Okay, so they are torn That's what they do. They're bouncing off, and they're bouncing off the judiciary to refine their legislative acts. They're actually acting in unison to try to figure out how to get past the arguments. But the problem is the bar unions are running the legislative branch. That's the preponderance of people in the legislative branch are attorneys. They are completely in a unlawful corporate monopoly of RICO and trafficking and all the criminal elements that they were anything but called the United States Judiciary or the state of judiciaries. They'd be seen as criminal enterprises and gaming of children. They're running that, and then they've had control of the executive branch until Donald Trump got in, which is why they hate him, because he is not one who is controlled by the bar union. He's used to the bar union being his employees. Do you understand that? Uh-huh. He's not used to attorneys telling him what to do. Get me?
Yeah.
So they don't control him. He takes counsel where he sees fit, and they're not used to not controlling what the person in that position thinks, does, whatever. And so until and that's why they hate him. I don't even care I don't care what he said. I don't care what his personal conundrums are with sexuality, his opinion of women. Good-looking women must not like it because he always gets married to them, so he must have some panache, you know?
I find that funny.
You know, I don't care. The man is not sucking on the word of the bar unions of this country, and he has taken them to task.
And he's continually taken them to task, and he's been
he's winning. I'm winning.
Very successful, and he's handled it with such panache, as you so eloquently pointed out.
He must have panache. He must have some charisma. The leader of Russia loves the guy. You can see that. And that dude is a KGB top agent that became the king of of Russia. I mean, he is not one prone to being starstruck. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And the man was starstruck by just the genuine character of this really obnoxious American statesman.
So what we have here presently is I reached out to you, my dear friend Lotus Justice, who I hold in very high opinion of you.
I hold you in high opinion too.
I admire your work personally. Okay, that's just me. So this SB 273 bill.
Yeah, got a problem there.
Yeah, in California. And I'm watching what California's doing. I'm always watching.
Let me put it this way. If you shut down California, we shut down the whole of the country. Because that's the end of the road.
I mean,
that's the end of the law.
Huge. This is a big deal. Like, what they're doing is setting precedents, and they're enacting, and under these bills that they're legislating, the bar is able to enact code and law. And this is very controversial. Because
the code and law is allowing them to do is, remember, you and I, in the case that I'm fighting, we can prove that
supposed to be able to do that. So
right, but that's why these two cases are kind of connected, because
it's constantly moving and changing, and I have to make you aware of this stuff, and I want to know where you're at with your case, and I want to get an update on that. But I also want to know that the people that are tuning in and listening to us, they understand, like, what the heck? This is like not even. I mean, the bar is supposed to be there to enforce the laws. They're not even supposed to.
Yeah, no, they're not. They're there to enforce whoever pays them to exact particularities that get the highest bidder to get what they want. That's what they're there for.
So everybody's going to be outraged. We need to dismantle the bar. I had a guest on the show, Chris Hallert.
Yeah, the bar is a criminal enterprise in and of itself, and it's actually unlawful even in the federal statutes. There's a Sherman Antitrust Act. The bar unions of the states have intentionally, and this is where I am. This is why because I joined the past and the current, and I show you where the two are meeting, and that this is our manifest destiny of this country. Our founding fathers set us on two pillars of law. They literally intentionally created two separate parallel constructs of American law. American law. because no other place in the world does this happen. We allowed the existing three crowns of law, the papacy, the Babylonian slave trade, and all that to exist as a commercial instrument after the 13th Amendment was passed and the War of 1812 created the Treaty of Peace and Amity, where we created the United States citizen as a plenipotentiary in an international treaty with the Prince of the Holy Roman Empire. So your 14th Amendment corporate capital C citizens of the United States are international instruments pursuant to a treaty with the Prince of the Holy Roman Empire in 1812, which was brought about by the passage. It was brought about the Treaty of Peace and Amity is a peace treaty from the War of 1812 that occurred because our founding fathers specifically, unanimously, and with intent created a second pillar of law and said, we bar the esquires or any titles of nobility from the law of the land. So we allowed a commercial instrument of law and the super superior high big L law from the big S Supreme Court, God, not the little s, little c Supreme Court of men. And what they have proven in less than 200 years is why we barred them. Because they're
unlawful. So what we need to understand in the porthole to justice is that literally Jesus is our advocate in these courts.
Yes.
Quite literally.
Jesus is our advocate, yes.
And so Jesus. I want to, and on this note, I want to encourage everybody, including you, Lotus, to tune in for 20 on 20 this month in the porthole to justice. I hope that you join us because literally it's me and 5 other radio show hosts and it's a growing movement, and we're praying on all of this stuff.
We need prayers. I mean, this is a spiritually, I mean, if you can do nothing and you have a concern for what we're talking about, pray for me and Amelia. We get emotionally and spiritually attacked. This is a very emotionally draining experience. I don't expect people to give me money or anything like that. I'm the executor son tort of these cases. I do this out of my altruism. I pay for them. That is the requirement under the law, big L law, that I must pay for everything in the execution of an argument in a case, in order to, when I get to international law, be able to bring a claim of equity for violations of remedy, which means you have torted this person. So I'm operating as an independent nation, bringing a claim in the back roads of disgusting, evil people that Amelia and I have to deal with all the time, the stories. And just give us prayers, man. I mean, we need them. We really need prayers.
We're not above taking anybody
prayer.
else's
Give me a prayer any day.
If anybody out there has a little bit of money they want to, or a lot to, and they want to donate,
I mean,
you can donate to Adrian's
give me
PayPal.
A prayer, man.
Anyway,
I have a trust for that, and I have the capacity for all that. I'm just so busy. This is a daily thing. You know this. It just consumes.
I know.
This is what you do. I mean, this is what I do all my life.
It absolutely consumes you. And the thing is that there isn't a lot of people that have the aptitude to where you can really vent, and you know that they're understanding what you're saying.
Right.
And
right.
That's something that's kind of hard. But that being said, and all of that stuff, and the SB 273 bill.
Yeah, I mean, that's an example.
We're going to be having a whole entire campaign, mem campaign regarding SB 273, and I want to challenge other mem makers out there that might be tuning in to our show, The Porthole to Justice, to create your own mems opposing this California Bill 273, SB 273. And Lotus, I would love to hear an update on what's occurring in your fight, because you are filing against these people, and you are filing for them to de-assuritize their bonds,
right?
Because of these ethical issues. This is an ethical issue, so please.
This is a philosophical of law issue. Our law, the law that governs the founding instruments of our country, which allows the commercial instruments of our nation. And I said that very specifically, okay? The United States of America Republic is the country. And as far as I know, and I have not researched this personally in depth, but the United States of America is a limited liability company, which each of us are probably passive partners in, which I find very interesting.
Oh, we have a listener, Brenda Clifford. Welcome to the conversation. If you have a question for you, either myself or Lotus, please post. Okay, go forward. I'm sorry. Proceed.
Sorry. So, if you have two instruments here, and we our money is based on what we believe the law to be, and Americans do not believe, on the whole, spiritually, that children should be conveyed into matrimony at age 10. Okay, we don't believe in the merchandising of men. That's considered a violation of, that's considered lawlessness, okay, to institutionalize that, which then makes it a sin. So in our law, the big L law that we brought forth from the Bible as the orthodoxy of Jesus Christ, not Roman Catholic, who crucified our advocate. They literally crucified our advocate, and we still followed that advocate's path, and it became a Bible. And the founding fathers of the States of America used the existing law at the time, the Chancery Courts of the Common Laws of England, and brought it to the New World, which the Pope had no control over the law here, and created a new crown of law. And that crown of law was then split into two pillars, the commercial pillar and the law pillar. The law of the people and the law of commerce, because we define what is commercially allowed. That's our law. Before the United States of America started, that is not how the world was ruled. The Pope said what the law was. The King said what the law was, not God. And our law is based upon what God, in our nomenon, our knowingness of what is right and wrong, righteous under a God of equity, you know. When I was a kid, I did not like Catholic traditions because it seemed that God was very cruel and punishing. That's what I saw as a child. And as I got older, I realized that there's a couple gods in the Bible. There's not just like Yeshua. There's other gods that are not real gods. They're higher beings, but I don't think that Jesus, as our advocate, would speak for a God that said that you're supposed to divide the spoils of war after you kill those that are against you, and you can even divide the women and the children. And this is the God that spoke to Moses. I mean, people don't think about that. That's not my God. When I started understanding the law of the United States of America and the common law of the people that my family, helped start, I realized that there are like these governing principles. And one of them is that children are sacred. Their innocence is sacred. That's our law. And Yeshua says that anyone who shall take the innocence of a child, you are best to put a millstone around their neck and throw them into the sea. That's what Jesus said. That's what Jesus said. So that's the law in this country. You will not take the innocence of children. And if you do, it's the highest crime that deserves death. That's what Jesus said. Because when you deny children Jesus, that's what he said. You deny them their innocence in me. Deny them their faith in me, in goodness. Okay? So, marrying off 10-year-olds to men or women in the times of the day now, right?
Yeah.
They reached into the goddess woman and defiled her to become a servant of men. Because very few women, in my opinion, probably prostitute to small boys. It's a proclivity that men have ingrained in their servile women who now are in positions of power, which is disgusting. So, we don't believe in that, and that's what the end of the world, the end of the United States, is California. That is the beachfront. That is the invasion. It's funny because it's like it's almost like I'm beginning to wonder if like if the invading forces, do they have some immunity from radiation? They've like flooded California with radiation from Fukushima, purportedly. They're telling you all the time there's going to be a giant earthquake.
Yeah.
Hollywood rules the politics. I mean, it's just this incredibly chaotic state of. It's almost like Sodom and Gomorrah. I mean,
well, it truly is. But the thing is that we can't like just say California, throw it off, because the problem is this: the bar is setting precedents within the judiciary.
Right.
There in California.
You're seeing that. You are seeing the coup in action, and in the case that I've done, we see the coup in action every day. What they just did, just as a brief update, because remember last time I was on, I lauded this judge, bar union for the state of Indiana, because he brought forth this opinion of we went to them and asked for them to determine the jurisdiction of the case, knowing what we brought to them, and he said, well, we don't think we have jurisdiction, and ultimately. It's the jurisdiction of the Supreme Court, which was actually a truthful and genuine opinion, and it was accurate. Knowing what he knew on the surface, prima facie, and I remember I lauded him for bringing back such a quick decision, blah blah blah. So he brought it back, and he said, ultimately we can't do this because of, which is often said, the Rucker-Feldman doctrine, and also ultimately if this is appealed, it will end up in the Supreme Court. So that's really who has this, and so we don't have jurisdiction. And he said without prejudice. So he dismissed it without prejudice. So he didn't say one way or the other whether it was a valid claim. In fact, he was supporting that it was potentially a valid claim. Okay, and that he didn't have jurisdiction. So we followed that up with a very particular.
And wait, before you go there, for some of the new listeners, I just want to, can you define the Rucker-Feldman doctrine just very briefly?
The Rucker-Feldman doctrine is a doctrine, which is the history of that, and what it truly is a totally different show. It's actually an implied trust of the states. And it says that the federal government may not interfere with the domestic institutions of state in its desire to define slavery and peonage. That's exactly what the Rucker-Feldman doctrine does. It says the states basically are absolved of federalism when it comes to the definition of the state domestic institutions that imply slavery and peonage, which means the states were left, pursuant to this implied doctrine, to define who could be a slave and who is a peon of the state. And currently they're exercising that control over the 14th Amendment federal citizen. Do you understand that, Amelia?
Yeah.
So in coup, pursuant to the implied...
I am living it. I don't understand.
But you understand how they're using a federal instrument, but have absolved them from federalism, and the courts in this particular case are clearly showing that the federal courts are also protecting the states. Like the federal courts are accepting that the states are immune from federalism.
Yeah.
But still allowing them to use the 14th Amendment citizen, which is a banking instrument, which is all that they're...
Well, this is what concerns me.
You are not seen as a person. You are seen as an instrument of commerce in the judiciary of the United States, because they're not...
And this is what concerns me, because also this applies to our children.
It applies to everybody, our children. It applies to our cars, our house. Our children are deemed like our house. They are deemed titled instruments of vessels by the government, by the United States Federal Corporation, which is a pyramid scheme of state franchises listed under the Department of Transportation in all 50 states and territories. Quote, United States, not States of America, United.
Yeah.
United States. Totally, these are attornments of the... I am a technical writer in the law, Amelia. That's what you know I am. And I'm a technical writer in the law because I understand both sides of the law, and I can write pleadings that define the bar, one side versus the other. What is the real? What is the not? The philosophical foundations. And they have come to the point where they have allowed, in this respect, because I followed up, the Rucker-Feldman. So basically they said, we are barred from interfering in this case as a federal instrument, a United States, quote, district court, all capital corporate instrument, okay, which are not the district courts of the United States. Two totally different instruments. They divulge that in their own writings, in their own Title 28. They say we are not the same courts as those in the Constitution. We have similar names, but we're not the same. We're just territorial administrative forums. They're banks. They're banks there to, instead of follow the statutes, the law, the Constitution, administrative form, the courts and the federal.
So you are actually an oath minister of the law, and
yes, I do everything I do. Right. I'm sorry. What was the last thing you said?
Oh, and your job is to make sure that the courts are enforcing the laws.
Make sure everybody knows that when they're in violation of the law. That's all I do. Is I say, here's the law. Here's what you're supposed to do. You should do it. And I pay to bring that argument. And I say, this is the law you should follow, and this will really help the people. And I bring this to prevent, war in our instrument, because there's a lot of, I'm arguing the larger law that everyone knows is going on, and that the CPS courts, the lower courts, are mere child trafficking probate courts, that they're probating our children, so people who are buying our children, the state is trafficking our children, the state is selling our children, the state is buying children, the state is allowing people to buy our children. And they are selling our children as a commodity. The judiciary, the county judiciary, probate.
No, and what I need to make the listeners understand is that not only are the courts actively doing this, but in California,
they can sell a 10-year-old.
They're trying to. There's a new Senate bill that's proposed, which is SB 273, and folks, I need you to understand that they're publishing this story in questionable news sites that aren't always known for being credible, because they want...
They're required by law to publish a federal statute in a legal newspaper. That's required.
Yeah, and they're publishing it in these questionable publications.
Are they registered legal newspapers?
Intentionally, because they don't want people to take it seriously. They don't want people.
I'm asking you,
and then they have these trolls online that are saying this is fake news. So,
but it just passed. You're saying that it's actually been brought up. That you were telling me a bit back.
No, it has. So we need to be very diligent. I mean, this is a crucial.
Right. That's what you do.
This is a crucial time, Lotus. Because,
well, not only that, you're knowledgeable. This is the type of law you personally were subjected to.
Yeah. So this comes up on my radar, and my red flags are going ding, 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 ding.
Right. This is all, yes, they are totally not working for us, right?
Yeah.
No, that's why that's the beauty of, when I talk to people come to me and ask me about advice and stuff. And I consider, and I will counsel a friend. You can always come to me and I'll give you my 2 cents worth, whatever it's worth, and according to some people, my opinion about the law is worthless. Okay. That's what I'm going to tell you. So, you can take it for its value, is what a very old, common law.
We're all entitled to our opinions.
No, but I mean, what you do is when people say, "Well, you can accept my opinion for its value," and then it's not a contract. If you deem my opinion worthless, we've got nothing. Can't sue me for it. You asked me, and so when people come to me for counsel, I say accept it for its value. If you value it, don't, and if you don't, I can't make you value my opinion.
Folks, the thing is that's unique about Lotus is that she's filing stuff against this legislation. She's saying we're not going to suretize your bonds.
In Indiana, yeah. I said we're not going to suretize lower courts.
If you're going to continue to, participate in this activity that is clearly not ethically or legally.
It's not lawful. It's not legal. It's nothing. They're not following anything, and they know it. And that's where the problem is, because the only reason this has been allowed to continue is because the attorneys in these county courts are complicit in the racketeering. They are actual racketeers. The prosecuting attorneys, the court-appointed defense attorneys, the guardian ads litem, these are all party to the same racketeering. Every one of those people, the judge, the prosecuting attorney, the defense attorney, the guardian ad litem, all belong to the same union. They all profit personally, in personal lucre, from every one of their frauds, RICOs, and activities and conveyances of children in probate. These people are racketeering our babies, and they are selling them. And I have caught them red-handed. And they will not even
these people are from the military, a lot of them. A lot of them are from the military. Some of them are from the foster care system, and they think they're doing good things. And this is kind of...
I don't know where these people come from. All I know is that there are a bunch of people colluding to traffic in babies. You know, in this county, we had the associate director, the assistant director, not the director. We had the assistant director, number 2 in line, tell us that she wasn't doing anything in this case without the direction of a prosecuting attorney. Now, how is the prosecuting attorney the person who's prosecuted to have this child conveyed for the abandonment which he created by unlawfully detaining the mother in prison? Because I'm going into the specifics here, but I'm just saying, this is the collusion.
No, they set up, and the collusion is so bad that these gang-stalking people...
Oh my God, it's totally, Amy, I'm going to tell you, this particular
create a scenario where they're able to obtain these children illegally, fraudulently, and an allegation.
Look, they pick and choose. In this county, they have a yearly parade of children. I kid you not. They have a special parade called the Bell Parade. The bells. It's called the Ringing of the Bells. And in that parade, all the new children under the age of 5 are paraded through the streets of this town. I kid you not. This is an old Mason town. I go down there and I'm walking through the courthouses, and every time an attorney flies by me, he throws the gang sign of Masons on his back, which is an open high five. And
I want to ask you, Lotus, because you are an oath ministerial officer of the judiciary.
Yeah. I would say the American law.
Experience when I've gone to let's say like the appeals courts, and I've gone to retrieve records, and I'm there and I'm standing and I'm requesting records, and I'm seeing these guys behind the counter do hand signals to each other, and then they say, "Oh, we can't provide you with that because those records." Those records are still being reviewed in the judge's chambers.
Right. Okay, so what you're saying is you have observed on multiple occasions that the people running the clerk, which is the docket, and then that's a whole admiralty term, on the dock of the bay, okay, let's say, they're the ones that are the dock masters that say what boats are in port, what vessels of admiralty commerce are upon the docket. Get it? So they are the dock masters. You're saying that the dock masters are throwing gang hand signs to say, don't comply, throw interference against her. This is one of those claims. This is something that could run our whole racketeering. See, what I'm proving in this particular case is that we have these courts, these quote courts, but they're really just banking forums. They're every attorney action. The attorneys control the bar people. People need to understand this. The attorney's job as esquires, as titles in the nobility, what did an esquire do? An esquire was supposed to be there to represent the sovereign who was not a king in the king's court. And the esquire would walk into the king's court and announce his sovereign master, the knight, the duke, the earl. And here come. That's what the job of the esquire was. Well, come to find out, the esquire has always been working for the king, okay? And the esquire was there to spy on the sovereigns and the nobility, and we figured it out. Because they were double agenting. They were taking what they were finding out about us, operating as our squires, our esquires, supposed to be serving us in our nobility, taking what they found out and selling it. They were selling it.
What we have now are some weak advocates that are being compromised, and they're online and they're collecting case file information.
Oh yeah.
And they're actively, you know, portraying themselves as advocate and promoting these esquires, spies.
Right. Oh, I know. Which are not. They're not the law. They're at law. Just go read the Judicial Act, 1789, Section 16, and that's the only bar you need to worry about. It says basically that the law of equity does not apply, is barred from even being invoked, unless remedy at law is denied. That's what it says. That's a very important section of the founding documents of our country. That's part of the bar. That tells you when actions of at law in admiralty and maritime law become subject to claims in equity under bills of equity, under the violations of law of equity, when they fail to provide remedy at law.
Dealing with. And then
that's what they do every day. That's what they do every day, but no one's ever proved that they've denied remedy all the way through the judiciary because they've been controlling the bar and saying who can bring claims. Do you know how many states? I mean, like, there are multiple states that have said that habeas of children are suspended. That's a violation of the Constitution. Children are never in rebellion. Do you understand that? Mm-hmm. They can only suspend the habeas corpus rights for people in rebellion. Children are never in rebellion against the state. Do you understand that? Yes. That is not a plausible construct in logic. Infants are never in rebellion. So how are they suspending the writ of habeas corpus for children when the only way you can do it is in two terms: rebellion and for the interest of the public safety?
And so my concern. Okay,
hold on.
Okay.
But do you think it's in the interest of public safety to suspend the writ of habeas corpus so that the bar unions can collude to traffic 10-year-olds into marriage? I don't think that's part of public safety. Do you? No. See, you have to follow.
You and I know, Lotus, that the bar is out of control.
Oh, it's totally out of control. It's an open racketeering and criminal enterprise in the counties and collectively in some states. I'd say collectively in most states, because they don't care about the coup in the judiciary, and they're out there having party and doing drinks and still politicking Republicans and Democrats because they want to toe who their master is.
No, they can only initiate laws by legislating them, and the bar
right, but the judiciary
was never supposed to be in place to create.
I know, but you understand
they were originally in place to enforce the laws. So now we have this gray area where they're campaigning.
No, there is no gray area. There is no gray area. The gray area is their criminality. There's no gray area in the law.
So why doesn't Trump see this, and why isn't he breaking up the bar?
He just protected he just basically won the borders of the United States. The bar was actually arguing it could habeas corpus foreigners into our country. And I was like, how can a bar union member exercise writ of habeas corpus to bring a child across international borders in a state instrument, in a state, the New York ACLU filed the case to bring a child through habeas corpus. Says a child that was of a foreign status had no standing in the law in our country or under our law. The Bar Union of New York wanted to reach over international borders as the state of New York and import a child. That was what came against Trump's Muslim ban. It was all he was controlling who could come into the country in general.
The majority of the wealth in California, I believe, is based on this human trafficking scam that is being perpetuated.
You don't understand. No, Amelia, the whole commerce of the world is based on child trafficking.
I know but I'm talking about the 1% in California.
Oh, yeah. That's what it is everywhere. It's the 1% of California. It's the 1% of the states.
They're having this huge, controversy. They're publishing their outrage against the president.
Okay, let's think about this. Okay, I want you to perceive this concept. There is one particular thought of people. They have a unified hive mind and control through centuries of indoctrination. Because as you and I, most of the time,
hive mind. Thank you. We've talked about that on the show.
Yeah, I mean, they're not attorneys. Not every attorney is a reprobate. Okay, it's been perfunctory. They're called ens legis instruments. They only follow what they're told to do, and they're taught to not think and not taught the bigger picture of law. That's why they're at law. They're not in law. They're at law. They pretend and posture with robes and guns and buildings that they are our governance, when our law says we don't need a temple. The temple is in our soul.
Our government has become the gangs. And
yes!
gang stalkers that are targeting us are the legs.
But you know why? But that's the whole point. Our founding fathers knew they would come for us because we were the only free land. Look, this is the makings of our people. This was what God ordained for the new world. The Pope.
Given that,
this is all divine.
Given
and
that,
it's hard, but it's hard to start. Go ahead. What'd you say?
Okay, we have a question. We have a question. Brenda would like to know, Lotus, how can I get a court order to open social media and phone records, banking information, etc., to trace her son, her adult son?
Her adult son? Well, I
Yeah.
don't know. I mean, you can ask for discovery. I mean, you can ask to subpoena the documents. The problem with the rules is they're not following them. If you actually have a good case, and this is why we started this show with expected interference, the courts are there to minimize claims against the criminal state. That is their job. Okay? Mm-hmm. People have the perception that all those high-paid attorneys are there for altruism to help the impoverished, the disenfranchised, infant, and the insane. Do you really believe that men that dress like that and act like that are there for your benefactor? I mean, that's the most absurd construct of the insanity of presentation that's there.
So how would she go about filing?
I would tell you that you have a right to that evidence if it would exonerate. You have a right through rules of evidence. So I would suggest that you go read the state rules of evidence and procedure. It's usually Rule 16 or sometime thereabout, because they tend to comply with the federal numbers. So the rules of evidence in most states, some states, preponderance is Rule 16, but you go and you read the rules of evidence. You have a right to evidence that will exonerate or bring forth evidence.
I don't know the state that she's particularly in, but if you look up the Brady disclosure laws, they're pretty general. Mm-hmm. Brady.
Well, but I'm saying she actually has a right through discovery to subpoena or through discovery request that the state or the person who has brought a claim against her or whatever, but even if in most cases, even if you are the plaintiff who brings the claim, if the defendant has asked for discovery, there are rules that say what you are allowed to request through discovery rules. And if it's something that brings forth evidence of exoneration
so Brenda is in California. In California, I want you to do a Google search for Brady disclosure laws, and
the California judicial and the rules of civil procedure for the state of California. Go read them. And there's a rules for evidence. I promise you. Mm-hmm. There's a criminal and a civil rules there's a criminal rules of procedure and a civil rules of procedure for the state of California. And they are supposed to be in conformance with the federal rules of criminal and civil procedure. And there is a rule about what can be requested through the court by order of court in subpoena of documents as evidence in cases. And she is owed those by the
and you need to stand firm in these laws, because there will be attorneys
the laws are there. They're not following them. So
they're not following them, and they're negating them, and they're using trickery, and they'll be there in court, and they'll tell you, oh no, the DA didn't submit it wasn't submitted. You need to stand very firm, and you need to be very strong, and you need to keep repeating.
Right, because
yes,
I'm
these
going
are
to
the
tell you
breach
this.
disclosure laws. I'm entitled to these documents. I'm
And guess
entitled to
what?
this
If
evidence.
it's a critical thing and she requests and she's owed them by the rules of evidence of the civil procedural criminal rules of the state,
Mm-hmm.
and they deny her that, she needs to immediately appeal it and just argue the fact that they're not following their own rules of evidence.
And if you even file an appeal, even if you just feel that something's not kosher in your case,
Yeah.
it's better to have that oversight because the appeals court is there.
Or enjoin, whichever.
A lot of people don't understand the purpose of the appeals court, and the appeals court is there so that people follow technical procedure in the lower courts.
People are bound. They're called in
so if they're not following the technical procedure,
They are not supposed to be interpreting the statute. They can interpret the law, but they can't interpret the statute.
So, I mean, even if you file an appeal
you're supposed to follow what's
when
right.
you file an appeal, in order to be effective, you want to file an appeal based on violation of technical procedure in the court.
That they have published as their rules that they themselves are supposed to be following. Okay?
Yes.
This is all about.
And you know what? This has been so great. And Brenda Clifford, California, thank you so much for tuning into the show.
Yeah,
Lotus.
put up the fight in Kelly. Put the fight up in Kelly, big time, big time. That place is the end of the world, and if you beat them there, just in general principle, it saves the whole United States. That's the people understand this is a war of paper. So consider California the weakest link with the most reprobate state government that is for sale in Hollywood with their little. I mean, everyone needs to look up the word Hollywood.
You have to understand they're legislating these laws.
I know, but people need to understand
they're doing it with the media and by using these web or website publications that are not credible outlets as being noted as publishing these Senate bills that they're submitting, and they're not credible at all. They're not, and they're not credible outlets. But yet, according to law, they've notified the public.
Right. Well, not only that, but it's even in your face. Go look up what Hollywood is. Hollywood isn't actually a type of a tree. It's a magical
so they're
wand.
doing this across the state, and it's all coming out of LA. It's coming out of California. So everybody in the porthole to justice, you need to pay attention. I'm so sorry. I have to close out the show, Lotus. But
awesome.
Please come back on again.
Awesome show.
Please. My son is home, and
Awesome show.
Yeah, I love you. Everybody, thank you.
Everyone, look into this stuff in Cali because they're showing what they are there.
Yeah. Thank you so much, everybody. Please subscribe to the show on Spreaker.com, Porthole to Justice. And if you're interested in supporting me and what I'm doing, you can. I'm on PayPal. It's A Duran. And we can always use it. We are not above that. We need it. We're definitely targeted over here. Anyways, and we're fighting hard for you. Lotus, thank you so much for coming on the show. And
thank you for having me. Always good to talk to you.
Yeah, I love you so much. And please don't get discouraged. Anyways, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. This has been another episode of Off the Cuff with Amelia Duran, Porthole to Justice.